So this spot here is where I want to put the camper. And it's a lovely little spot, it's flat. It was where the logging company about 20 years ago dumped a huge pile of gravel. So I had a neighbour friend come down with his excavator and help level out that spot for the camper. And this is what it looks like in the summer, which would be idyllic. Except this gigantic maple that is leaning rather alarmingly over that exact spot. So unfortunately, that tree's going to have to come down, because as we discovered inspecting the roots, it actually grew out of a nursing stump, which decayed probably decades ago and left a giant split in the side of the tree and a very unstable root system. And if this was anywhere near anybody's house, this would have come down years ago. Give you an idea of how much this is leaning. That's 90 degrees. It's around 69, 70 degrees. So it's 20 degrees off vertical, which is quite alarming. And if you take into account that giant branch there, we're looking at 60, so 30 degree lean of the weight of that tree. Maybe it'll last another 10 years by itself, maybe not. Maybe it'll come down in the next storm. While it's always quite sad to see a beautiful tree like this come down, there are 4 or 5 other giant maple trees right next to it. So any impact on the character and ecology of this spot will be minimal. And my hope is that we can mill this down into some really beautiful lumber, and it'll be a much safer and sunnier spot for the camper. In addition to that, felling a maple is far from the end of its lifespan. Like this coppice maple, the roots will continue to grow and create new trees on the surface. All of the maple stumps in my woodland have turned into this kind of growth. Within a year, the stump will look something like this, with hundreds and hundreds of new maple shoots growing from the roots. Of course, as a land steward, I never want to make a decision like this lightly, and I've been weighing the pros and cons of this for over a year before making my final decision. So you see me here using a kind of a cool forestry tool, which is a diameter tape measure that on one side has normal inches measurements and on the other side has the exact conversion of that circumference measurement to a diameter measurement. So you measure around the tree and it turns that circumference into a diameter. So right here you can see it's about 33.5 inches, and that's called the diameter at breast height, or DBH measurement. And with this information you can use any number of online calculators to calculate species-specific log density and weight. For example, that a 12-foot section of this particular tree is going to weigh about 3,000 pounds, which is only slightly less than my pickup truck. No matter what size tree you're working with, it's always safest to have the area around the base clear to work in. So before my arborist Ryan arrives, I'm going to clear away any low-hanging branches, suckers, brush and accumulated debris with my small chainsaw and brush axe. Felling this giant tree in one piece would have catastrophic effects on the forest around it. So after inspecting it, Ryan decides he's going to climb the tree, removing low-hanging limbs as he works his way up, and then piecing the tree into manageable chunks on his way back down. This will reduce the chance of damaging other trees around it, and prevent us from ending up with several tons of tree lying across the road where I want to put the camper, with no way to move it. Watching Ryan condense his decades of experience into quick and efficient choices about each step he takes and each cut he makes is both awe-inspiring and slightly terrifying. Here Ryan is inspecting every piece of this complex branch for possible hazards. He quickly concludes that it's safe to bring this particular branch down in one piece, and makes several small but precise cuts to ensure it falls the way he wants it to. Nevertheless, when he starts to cut away parts of the branch he's tied off to with rope, it's still nerve-wracking to watch. But it shows the depth of his understanding of the strength and weaknesses of various parts of the tree. So what's the plan, do you think, to bring that whole section down? Or are you going to keep going?
Oh, I'm going to keep going. Yeah, I'll go way up there, tie it up there, just piece this thing out in small pieces. And then once I'm tied in up there and I've lost all the branches here, then I'll come down here and piece these out in smaller pieces. Because instead of taking really big pieces, unless you want more impressive footage of big pieces coming down.
No, this makes sense to me. If you watch this next cut closely, you'll see the branch slides dangerously along Ryan's chainsaw as he completes the cut. This is a classic example of the unpredictability of the way branches fall when you cut them. If you listen carefully to these last few dead branches, you'll hear them disintegrate as they hit the ground. In any established woodland, you'll see dead branches at the top of a lot of older trees like this one. Before they inevitably fall or are blown down in a storm, they provide habitat for insects, burrowing beetles, and the birds that feed on them. Sadly, with this maple, the potential for those dead branches to fall contributed to my decision to bring the tree down.
Not bad for my first tree. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just take this down and kind of like, I'll look at it as far as what are kind of millable lengths here. So, because like from here up is like one straight section of a certain diameter, and then I'll figure out whether we want to take this in one or two pieces. I think we'll take this next stretch in two pieces.
Yeah, it's about, what, 30, 40 feet?
Yeah. I realize that I'm still tied to this. I'm just going to put my face cut in while I'm still tied, pull that out, and then I'll do my back cut. So it just can look a little scary sometimes.
That was cool.
Well, I'm glad you weren't over there.
I got more sense than that.
And so then what I'm thinking is we'll take this piece out, and then I'll come down and we'll drop the rest in one piece.
Here you see Ryan doing what's called a bore cut. He'll explain this in greater detail later, and you'll get to see it in close-up as he does the same exact technique to the base of the tree.
Plan now is to put a face cut in and aim it just to the left of that big chunk that we just dropped there. And I might do a bore cut to eliminate some tension on the inside because the amount of forward lean that we have to avoid the tree from splitting. Yeah, we'll just...
That's when you go straight in?
Yeah, so I'll do my face cut first, and then I'll bore through the center of the tree, cut all the way up to the hinge with the saw, and then I'll cut back, and then I'll release that post at the back that's acting as a trigger. So that's what I did on that last cut. I don't know if you noticed how it just popped all of a sudden. Not the prettiest cut, but it works.
I had Ryan do a little bit of bucking just so we could walk around the area more safely and take a look at the various bits of the tree, see which logs might be good for milling, see which pieces should be left to rot down for habitat, and see where the most interesting grain structure might be found.
You have the grain going this way for this, and the grain going this way for this. That might have some interesting grain in that piece.
Since the stump was going to be an unavoidable feature of the landscaping behind the camper, I wanted to flatten out the top and make it smooth. That's crazy.
I guess it's fine. That can be where you put your salsa.
I tried to measure the length of the biggest section, but my tape measure wasn't long enough. I measured it in pieces and it ended up being about 35 feet long, which works out to a weight of about 5 tons. Looking around the site, I obviously have a lot of cleanup to do, and I look forward to making a follow-up video as soon as I've found someone with a portable mill capable of milling a log this size. So be sure to subscribe if that's something you're interested in seeing later. I hope you enjoyed watching Ryan work as much as I did. It was a very educational process for me, and I hope you'll join me again for more off-grid projects in my woodland. Please like, share or leave comments below. Either way, thanks for watching.